What's up, guys? Welcome back to the next video on learning Java. My name is QD Dani and you guys watching my channel Croywood. Alright, so in the previous video we have done our car, and for advertisement, say for example here we have done car for sale and our car details, and my car has 4 doors, my car has four tires, 2 passengers, it can carry 2 passengers, and the engine power is 200 and it's gray color. Alright, so and what we have done is we have done through the object oriented programming that we have created our fields here, our variables, and here we have instantiated our objects, and here we have used assigned values to field of my car object, and here we have outputted all this information. Alright, so in this video we're gonna use static. If you guys heard the static variable many times. What is static variables? Static variables is a class variable. Keep in mind that's the simplest explanation I can give you. Alright, so we're going to create another object-oriented programming about social media, for example, and we're going to count how many users we're gonna come in our social media. So you guys go ahead and click right and Java class. Say for example we put it social. So that's the name of our class, because the class socials, and the first ones we're gonna give social is got a user's name, for example, because the first thing is we need for a social website is a string name. What else do we need? Say for example we need a string address, because we are looking for customers for users address, for example, and we have a string gender, for example. Then we're gonna put an int age, because we need to know the user's age, and the final one's we're gonna put a static, and it's gonna be long, because you don't know the social our social website is gonna have a very long say for example integers, or it's gonna have millions and billions. Keep in mind this is gonna cover till 2 billion, but if you have more than that, you guys need to come for long. For example, we're gonna count user count, for example. Alright, so now we're going to create another class. Keep in mind that when we create a class here, it's the same as you guys can create a class in another, for example, say for example, I'm going to show you how we're going to create our class. Say now we're going to put another class, and social, for example, web social website, for example. So now when this social web came in, now we need to import these guys here. So import com.croywood.social. So we're gonna get this one, we're gonna copy this one, and we're gonna put an import. So what we're gonna import com.croywood.social, for example. So what we're gonna do is that we need to the name of the package, and here, and we need to the name of the class. It's the same as here that we have done. We have created class car, class vehicle, and here we have created class car, because Java is going to treat that exactly the same. So now in here, if you look in here, class vehicles on top, what happens here that we have class social, and here class social web, and that is exactly the same as this class social is going to be here on top. Alright, so now what we're going to do is that we're going to create our main methods. We're going to say public, we put a static, and we put a void, and we put a main. Okay, so now if you observe here, in this one we don't have any main here, because we are not going to instantiate in this one. So if you look in here, in this one we had the first one, the first class, we didn't have any main. You only use main where you guys needs to instantiate and when you guys needs to call your methods. As we already discussed that the main is the main like a main gate of the class. So if for example now we have public static, we're going to put this one a little bit close, void main, and we put an array of strings of arguments, and here now you need to create we're going to create objects. Okay, so here we have done all in one line. If you look in here, all in one line, you can do this way, but you can create your object first and then you can instantiate that one. It's up to you. So if for example we can create objects, for example we have social, then we're going to put a, if we have a social, we're going to use class social, and then we're going to put a my account, for example my social account, or you can put here my social account. It's a very long object name, so as long as you guys understand, and underneath you guys can put a my social account equals to new social. You guys need to call the constructor. You guys can do this way. If you look in here, whichever is easy for you, or you guys can do this way. This is they're both the same. Say for example now the first one is gonna define our objects here. You're gonna create our objects, and here we're gonna instantiate this one. You can do this way like here, but you can do this way as well. But a lot of people is gonna do this way. You're going to see a lot in Java, in your Java career, you're going to see that you're going to be more happier to do this way. So I leave it up to you, whichever you guys like. A lot of people like this way. A lot of people like to create objects, and then they're going to instantiate objects. So here we're going to instantiate the objects. Say for example we have another social, and we put your social account, for example, or you can put your friends, or your family, or your mind, whoever you want to put it. Then we're gonna instantiate this one. We're gonna put your social account equal to new social. So now you have instantiated your objects, and you're ready to use your objects here. We have multiple objects here. Keep in mind we have multiple objects here now, and we have already instantiated objects. It means now we can use all of these variables here. With the dot operator we can initialize all these variables here, just like here we have initialize here. We're gonna initialize means we're gonna assign values to fields. So that's my car is the objects. We're gonna do exactly the same one. We're gonna assign a name, my name, your name, and we're gonna assign address, gender, age. And here we have a static. Why we have a static? Because statics, keep in mind, is a class variable. It belongs to the class. So that's what we're gonna put a public static here. Static methods and static variables here. So now we have static long user count. Okay, so now we only gonna create one object at the moment. So we're gonna comment this one for future use. We're gonna comment this one, and I just want to show you how this static long user count gonna work. So we're gonna put it here, for example, our user count. So how we gonna use the user count? So now here that we're gonna access here all of this, for example, with the dot operator. But here how we gonna use this one, this guy here with can we use it with the dot operator? Look at here, we are using objects, and all of these objects we're gonna access all of these fields. But how we gonna do with the static? For example, as I said to you, is a class variable. We need the name of the class. Say for example, what's the name of the class? Social. So we put a social and we put a dot, and look at here, Java is very clever. As soon as we put it here, user count, and we put implementation. That's it. So now that's how we're gonna use the static data types. Here we have put a static, that's your data type, and this user count. You guys need to put the name of the class. You don't put the name of the objects, because statics don't belong to the objects here. See here we put the all of these fields we put the name of the objects here. We put the name of the objects to get hold or use all of these fields here, or variables here. We have used the name of the objects. We can get so where these objects came from, here, because we instantiated the class vehicle. But here we did not, we just instantiated that one, but the only time we're going to use this user count is through the class, because it's a class variable. That's how we gonna use this one. See, look here, static, or if you go for interview, or if you're going for exam or something, just remember one word is static belongs to a class, because it's a class variable. That's how we're gonna access that one. So now it's gonna use, it's gonna count how many users we have. So at the moment, because we commented this one and commented, we have multiple objects, but I'm gonna leave this one on, because I want to count how many users we have in our social media. And as here, we're going to assign values to our field. So we're going to use our objects, and our object is my social account. So we put a my social account dot, and we're going to put a name. So we're going to put a Yazdani, for example. You can put your own name, and we're going to put our objects, my users, my social account dot, and we can put an address, for example. So what's the address? 123, because it's a type string. 123 ABC street, for example, street somewhere in Washington, for example, DC. Keep in mind this imaginary. I don't live in Washington DC. Now we have address, we have gender, and we have age, for example. So now we're going to use my social account dot gender, and we can put a male. You don't have to put a male, you can put according to your own. All right, so here we put a int age. So we're going to put a my social account dot age. So we have an age, and you can put an age, any age you like. You can put a 30, 20, you can put whatever age you like. And here we can use this one. We can just we already use the static long user count, which is the class variable. So now here that we have printed here, we can copy these ones if you guys like. You can copy these guys here to make it looks a bit nice. And here we have welcome to our social media. So we put a welcome to Corayo social, for example, and my user details, for example, user details. All right, so what's the user details? And we're gonna put one by one the user details. Say, for example, we put a system dot out dot println, and we put a, say, for example, user name, and then now we put the username, and you guys need to put a space here, and we put a my social account dot name. You can put a hi welcome, you can put a hi or welcome, you can put to very nice greeting for the user, or if you want, you can put a biodata, for example, user, you can put a profile, for example, user, we can put a, because we're giving the details for the user. So we're going to copy this one because we are feeling a bit lazy today. So we can put a user address, and put a user's address here, and we put a user gender, we put a gender, and we put a gender here, gender, and the last one we can put a age, user age, and we can put a age here. Alright, so how do we use the count? For example, the number of users in our websites, for example, the number of user our users in our website is, then we're going to see the number of users, and instead of objects, we're not going to use object, we put a social dot user count. That's what we're going to put it, because here we are Java is going to read line by line, the compiler is going to read line by line. Look at here, we have objects, we instantiated objects, we have counter here, class variable is static, we have our objects here, and we are printing here. Alright, so now we look for anywhere mistakes. So here there is a 2 warning, but that's fine. So we look in here, and we're gonna run our program. To run, you guys need to come here and click run, and here is just a social web. That's what we're gonna run. So the social web's here, and you guys need to run this one. And here you guys can come in, you guys look at here, we have welcome to Cryo Social. We have user profile, we have Yazdani, we have ABC Street, Washington DC, we have all our profile, we have, and our the number of users in our website is 1. Keep in mind, this one is when we reach constructors, then we can use this one very effectively. We can use our static here, our static variable here. We're gonna use it very effectively with a constructor, but because we don't have we are not here at the constructor, so I need to cover the constructors as well. Then I'm gonna explain this one in more details, because this one is more good, because the class variables you can use it with the constructor. So the constructors coming in the future videos. So now at the moment you guys need to understand all this. So just a brief you guys, so at least you guys know how to use the static variables here, static variables in with the classes, because the class variables, and here because you already seen here the static methods here, because the static methods you can access from anywhere in your application. So that's what we name it, is static. So here we have put all our details, but there are more for example easier way if you guys want to use. For example, you can instead of putting your objects here, you can put it, for example, here you can use it here. For example, instead of telling everyone that you're using your objects, you can put it here. For example, you can make it shorter. For example, here, for example, instead of very long ones, you can make it a bit shorter. So how do we going to make it shorter? For example, the first one is that we're going to put a string. We put a string, we put a social, for example, social name, and we put this guys here, then we put assign this one here. So now instead of using the whole objects and name, we just use this guy here, social name. So and it's still gonna work. So now we put a social name, because social name. So now this one is making a lot shorter and a lot of very organized, this one, because we have done exactly the same ones. Here we have social, we have our objects, and we have our field, and we're gonna assign it to these guys here. So we have you can put a name, or you can put a string, for example, social address equal to my social, and you can put this guy here. You can put this one, and you can put it here. And now instead of using that one, you guys gonna put it here, social address. So we put a social address, and with them we can put it here, gender. So we put a social string, we put a social, for example, or you can just put a gender equal to, say, this guy is here. So I'm gonna copy and I'm gonna paste it here. This is a lot easier for you to, if you just instead of remembering all this, you just remember this one. So we put a gender, and here you guys need to put a int, and you guys need to put a age, for example, age equal to then my social dot age. We're gonna copy this one and we put it here. So now you guys gonna see the power of Java. Java is very organized and very powerful language. So now we have done exactly the same thing. If you guys run, we won't have any issues. It's just exactly right like before. So our program runs, and we're gonna have exactly the same output as before. You're gonna see here there is no change, but our code has changed. Why our code has changed? Our code is more readable now. So here, if you're gonna put say for example here we have put in our objects, we have created objects, we have instantiated our objects, we have put our static variable in use, we are going to count, and here we have put the name, edit the values to our variables. Here we have changed all this, say for example my social account, and we have created new ones. You can create a name, you don't have to put a social name, you can create an address just like this, make it very short, but make sure you assign your objects here that you access here. So here, instead of all those big long ones, you just put a social just shorter ones, just like a social address, gender, and age. You can put it this way. So and our program runs exactly perfectly, and it's running like flawless. So I leave it up to you, whichever you guys want to use. You guys want to do this way, or if you don't do this, then you guys need to put all this information here in your application, whatever application you guys are making. If you don't put this one, then you guys need to put this guy, the whole thing. You guys need to put your objects plus your variable, see your instance variable. Alright guys, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe Cryowood. If you guys have any question or comment, leave in comment box. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video, and bye.